This is the Art Beauty Podcast where we are always reaching for truth in beauty. Remember, the brands on the show are not paying to be here, so we get to have candid conversations because you deserve to be informed so you can make the best choices for yourself. With that said, I'm Amber, and today my fabulous co-host is Dr. Jordan Plews. He is the CEO and co-founder of ELEVAI Skincare, and we are going to be talking all about exosomes. Now, you might have heard of them. What are they? What do they do? And why do we care? That's what we're going to find out about today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Plews. How's it going?
Great. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate you inviting me onto the show.
Oh my gosh. Well, we had a chance to meet prior to this. We did, a press meeting because, as everybody listening probably knows, I also work with New Beauty Magazine. I've worked in the beauty industry for a long time. And one of the things that was really interesting to me was how incredible your background was. So sorry to pump you up or put you on the spot, but can you talk a little bit about what your background was? Because I feel like everybody at home should hear this.
Yeah, sure. So I started off in Northern California. That's where I grew up. My father's actually British, so I'm half British. And when it came time to go to college, he pushed me in that direction. And I ended up going to University College London, right in the center of London. I thought that was kind of the most exciting place to go. And it's known for medicine. It's known for biochemical engineering. So I did my undergrad in biochemical engineering there. I went on to work for Pfizer in the UK as part of their bioprocess development group, and then was invited back for a doctorate. I did my doctorate in stem cell research and molecular biology, and kind of lived between Sheffield in the north of England and also a bit of time again in London. And eventually I said, you know what, I want to come back to California. I'm missing home, missing the weather. And I did my postdoc at Stanford. Again, focusing on regenerative medicine and the use of stem cells in various capacities. And, I kind of shifted from a doctorate, which was all about using mRNA and reprogramming adult cells back to an embryonic state, to a variety of different kinds of stem cells. So the stem cells we use today are mesenchymal stem cells, also known as adult stem cells. And yeah, I pretty much got pulled into aesthetics in just the last 8 years. So I've been developing products in that space, but it was almost kind of by accident that I ended up in aesthetics, because I spent most of my career on kind of oncology and cell biology.
I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but you kind of said, I didn't really know if I wanted to do this because, you were working on literally life-saving opportunities. Although, for all my listeners out there, a happy life can be having great skin, right? So we're not going to belittle the cosmetic applications, but you've been working in some pretty impressive areas, especially when it comes to science. And I think one of the interesting things is, we had Elastin on last week, and we're seeing a lot more lately with your brand, with other brands of this, where science is meeting cosmetics, right? And really, we're seeing a lot of product lines pop up that are coming from brands that are dealing in wound repair, that have sort of medical origins, and now are being placed to a cosmetic application. I think that's kind of cool and really interesting, that we're kind of going away from like this looks good, feels good, smells good to, hey, here's what this is breaking down and how it's affecting you on a cellular level. So with that said, and thank you for sharing your background, we've heard a lot of buzzwords. I hate to use this, right? But skincare with things like stem cells, growth factors, and now exosomes. And I'm wondering if you could kind of give us a quick explanation of what they are, because I think it can get a little bit confusing as to what they do. So if you don't mind, let's start off with stem cells. Can you kind of give us like a brief explanation of what they are and what they do in our skincare?
Yeah, so stem cells broadly are cells that can either differentiate from a stem cell into another type of cell, or they can replicate, right? So I think traditionally people have thought of stem cells as the cells that turn into whatever other cell type you may need, and they're the ones that are there maybe supporting during development if we're talking about the earlier stem cells, and they're the ones that heal us, when we have an injury. right? Largely, there's kind of a couple main classes of stem cells. So there's what are called pluripotent stem cells. These are ones that are associated with kind of more the earlier side of things. So we talk about embryonic stem cells. Those are considered pluripotent. My whole doctorate was about, can we get away from using embryos? We don't want to use embryos. There's some ethical concerns with embryos, right? And so that's where we've now developed technology to make what are called induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPS cells. That's what a lot of my doctorate focused on. Those cells, they are great. They have a lot of potential, but they're not really ready for prime time. There are some issues tied to oncology and cancer formation with those very early embryonic or pluripotent stem cells. So we don't use those, generally speaking, for applications today. The other main group is what we call multipotent stem cells, or some people, they use MSC, mesenchymal stem cells. There's even the term mesenchymal stromal cell or mesenchymal signaling cell. These are all different words that roughly are associated with the same group of cells that are in the fully formed body. This can be, and I say fully formed as in from birth onwards. So we're not doing anything in the fetus, we're not doing anything in the embryo. The earliest ones, of course, right at the time of birth, you have umbilical, right? So some people are saving the umbilical cord blood, and there's what are called cord blood stem cells. And then around the blood, the veins that run through the cord, there's something called Wharton's jelly. And that's where the earliest kind of age 0 mesenchymal stem cells are. And you might be familiar with folks that are pulling fat out, and they're putting it different places because there's adipose-derived MSCs. And there's also folks that are pulling blood out and then using PRP, or platelet-rich plasma, to kind of have stem cell-like effects. Now, PRP, that's not stem cell. You might get some hemopoietic stem cells if you're lucky, but generally not considered stem cell. So that's broadly what we're talking about in terms of stem cells.
You brought up a good point. So and I'm not sure if it was with the growth factors, or actually, before I get into that, how does that differentiate from growth factors, which we're seeing a lot in skincare?
Yeah, so I would take a step back and say that a lot of anti-aging, the goal of it is, how do we take our aged body and return it to a younger state? What was happening in that younger state, right? What messages were your cells sending at that earlier point in time that are maybe no longer being sent now that we've aged, right? And as part of that message, growth factors were determined to be a critical part of that message. They, out of the hundreds of different molecules that are being produced at any given time by these sort of reparative cells, they were highlighted as important, right? And so we plucked those growth factors out, and some folks went ahead and figured out ways to make them in bulk and put them into products, right? But the goal was still the same. How do we get that message and put that in or on a patient to return them back to that earlier state? And that's where growth factors fit in. What we often don't talk a lot about, because this is usually where we get into the science, is that growth factors, they are usually pretty unstable. They, if you dumped a cup of growth factors on the countertop, it wouldn't last but hours or days. Generally speaking, we need to protect the growth factors. They're used to floating around within our bloodstream, away from oxygen, in a very specific environment, right? And this is why we see a kind of generation of things being encapsulated, right? Lipo-encapsulated, nano-encapsulated, micro-encapsulated. These things where we're taking something like a growth factor, or maybe a peptide, which is, if you remember, a growth factor is a protein. A protein is a chain of amino acids. A peptide is a shorter chain of amino acids that's generally meant to do the same thing as the longer chain. It's like the active portion, right? So whether we're talking about peptides or we're talking about growth factors, peptides are smaller and get in easier, but they're generally, again, a message that you're trying to send, and that message needs to be protected generally in order to be stable, or have something that stabilizes it, right?
Right.
And so that's the kind of stem cell growth factor part. The only other thing I want to mention about growth factors is that a lot of folks that come to me and ask about growth factors, I find that the products that they claim are growth factor products are often not human growth factor products, right? They are a peptide that's supposed to activate something, or they've taken a bacterial cell and they've modified it. And then that genetically modified bacteria is kicking out a protein, is kicking out a chain of amino acids that reflects that growth factor. But then what they don't mention to you is that bacteria, it doesn't have an endoplasmic reticulum, it doesn't have a Golgi apparatus, so that protein doesn't have the right cap and tail sequences, like the right glycosylation tail, these other things that as you delve deeper into the science, you find are very important to the stability and function of the growth factor or whatever protein is being produced. And this is what's happening at places like Pfizer and the pharmaceutical side that is not necessarily happening when you're buying an aesthetic product off the shelf that doesn't get regulated.
You know, it's interesting because we were hearing a lot about like biomimetic, right? Is another term of growth factors or biomimetic stem cells. I'm also hearing a lot about plant derived. You know, in your professional opinion, when we hear the word plant derived, right? I'm sure there are some benefits, but essentially a plant cell can't interact or with a human cell, correct? Or can't maybe replace that, right? So you can't put a plant stem cell into the body and expect it to start to work, kicking out human cells, correct?
Right. I mean, so there's a couple things here, right? We've all had a sunburn probably at some point, put some aloe on it. It helps. There are things that we know that are derived from plants that do work, that do help. There are, elements to plants that bind to something on our cells and have a reaction in our body, to have a biological effect of some sort, right? But I would argue that generally speaking, that's not by design, right? Like if we're talking about exosomes for a minute, exosomes are a message from one cell to another. And when you're grabbing exosomes, you're stealing a message that was meant from one cell to another. So if a plant cell is making a message for another plant cell and we're stealing it, by default, it's not meant for your human cells, right? And plant cells, they have a thick cell wall. The biology is very different. The proteins that interact are very different. There's such a wide difference there. Generally speaking, I think most of the plant discoveries, things that work from plants, are more accidental than they are by design. And so, going back to your point before, talking about how we started with a lot of stuff in the pharmaceutical world, and then it accidentally made its way over to aesthetics. Like I always talk about Latisse, these glaucoma eye drops, and then the one eye had these long lashes, and they're like, wait a minute, we got to patent it for lash length, right? And how about, like, instead of taking the leftovers, we try to do this intentionally from the get-go to make an aesthetic product. That's what we're about, right? And so the plant, it's sort of same thing. It was not designed for this. The fact that in some cases it may work or may have a benefit, that can happen. But if you're talking about, what's the very best thing, you probably want a message that is designed by a human cell for your human cells. And this is why our particular product and product set is a little harder to talk about than what you're going to find at Walgreens or Sephora, because this is about there's plenty of good products. And so what we talk about is going from good to great, right? So we've got products that work, that do things, that have some impact. But if you talk about what the very best thing is, you got to really change your thinking a little bit.
So there's so much I want to unpack with you today. Let me, before I kind of backtrack, we've covered growth factors, we covered stem cells, and you briefly mentioned exosomes. Can you kind of give us the overview on what an exosome is, the message between a cell?
Yeah, so going back to the idea of a growth factor being part of a larger message or set of messages, right? And we talk about the need to protect those growth factors to really get them to where they need to go, for them to survive in the bottle, to do the best that they can do. Well, as often is the case, nature has done a really good job of creating growth factors alongside a lot of other messages and packaging them in a nice, strong package that is meant to be delivered to your cells. And that's what we call an exosome. These are really tiny. They're nano-sized, nanovesicles, right? So again, if you think about the cell, an average cell about the size of a basketball, we're talking about something maybe the size of a grape or a marble. And these guys are not alive. They are more like a piece of mail from one cell to another. And just like a piece of mail, they have an envelope. And so an exosome is really an envelope. And what it carries inside, its payload inside, is often growth factors. But more broadly, it's proteins and things like RNA. Again, another form of biological message. And so it's our point of view that the best we can do is start with the best cell, harvested from the right place, right time, treat it in the right way so that it produces this great message, which is encapsulated by the exosome, and then to purify that out and provide that in a format that is usable. And the only other thing I'll say about exosomes is, a lot of people say, well, why now? Why haven't we been using this before? We had stem cells before, what happened? Stem cells we've known for a long time are the arbiters of healing and signaling in the body, right? But I can't give you a bottle full of stem cells. You will find there are companies that claim to do that. They're telling you they're stem cells in the bottle. I'm here to tell you a actual stem cell, you got to have a lab. You got to grow it under very specific conditions. Most of the time it's a marketing term. And because I cannot put a stem cell, a living organism, into a bottle that you can stick on the shelf, it's not very practical, right? And so while, we've probably all heard of folks that are maybe getting stem cell injections or had something done that involved stem cells, the usability there is limited. Whereas the exosome, which is not alive and is being released by the stem cell, that can be isolated and purified and put into a bottle. And that's a big step forward.
So before we get into the ELEVAI product, which I've been using, I'm loving. I've got a lot to say about it. Do we, going back to the controversy, right? So many of the products, I mean, would you say that the ones, I don't want to say that are going to work better, are coming from a human derived source?
I honestly try really hard not to talk about our competition. We're
Right.
not fans of mudslinging. We really instead rather focus on what makes the most sense, right?
Sure. Okay.
If I've done my job well, I will educate doctors, and which are basically our customers, right, on how this process works and let them decide for themselves, right? Because you do have multiple human sources of cells. Those who look into my background will see I previously made products before using adipose-derived stem cells. And, as many folks who have done that will admit, getting a hold of liposuction aspirate or fat is not that difficult, right?
Right.
Getting a hold of blood, for example, it's not that difficult. There's blood banks, there's people donating it, there's some that goes to medical use, and there's a lot that goes to waste, right? But if as a scientist, I took a step back and said, what is the best stem cell I could get? The youngest, right. It's not touched, it's not messed up by someone's diet, whatever they've been through, right? You got to say, if you're going to go to get liposuction, how healthy was that person getting liposuction done? If you have a random person who's giving blood, what's their background? We don't know. At least with an umbilical cord from a healthy, a full-term birth, we know a lot about the fact that should be untouched. And so that's a lot harder to get a hold of on the front end, but that's where the quality starts.
Oh God, not to digress too much. I did 5 rounds of IVF, all unsuccessful, unfortunately, but I do remember we had to sign off. And one of the things was, will you donate unused embryos, to science? Although now I'm wondering how much money they were making off of that, selling that on the back end. We'll hope not.
Generally speaking, I can speak to that a little bit because I have done, work in that area. You have to sign a very specific consent that says that you're okay for it to go to commercial purposes. And that's another, it's a hard thing to do. You have to literally say, I don't want these tissues and I don't care what happens to them.
Right.
And for a lot of people that's true. But for most of this stuff now, it has to go towards research.
Okay.
There's you should be protected there.
Good, good, good. Listen, I'm all for furthering science. But it didn't work for me, so I don't know if it's worth anything anyway. Um, Going back to, so on this idea of education, right? You kind of said that, hey, by design, human stem cells are maybe, I want to say better, but by design, more effective on human stem cells, right? Because that's what they were designed to do. So with the I feel like some people, it's controversial. It's funny, a lot of people that I talk to are like, I don't really care where it's coming from. If it's going to make me look and feel better, give it to me. There was some talk, and I'm surprised it's not a bigger conversation, but I have heard, and maybe you can clear this up for me, that with some of these growth factor creams, there was an air of concern over, could this be cancer causing? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So if you think about the body and the cells producing the variety of things that they produce, right? They're kind of like a symphony, and there's all these different instruments or cell types. They're all playing in harmony, right? Generally speaking, in the body, you don't have a lot of one thing. You have a variety of different things that are all interacting. And so where things get dangerous, in my opinion, is when you focus on one single thing and you just jack that right through the roof, right? It's way beyond biological levels. And that we have seen happen in the past with some growth factor products. So there's a growth factor called EGF, which when it first came out, it was exciting because we thought, okay, this is going to be helpful. There was some good results with it. But it is known now that if you put too much of that on, especially on something that might be precancerous, you can have issues, right? And so, I think there's a bit of a saying about, the poison is in the dose, right? Biology in general works like that, where I think as most people, especially in America, we have this sort of more is better mindset.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain to people more is not better when it comes to biology, you know?
So if people have EGF creams at home, because I'm sure there's a few in my cabinet, is that something that maybe we should be concerned about?
I don't want to speak to others' products and get myself in trouble there, but I can tell you, what I saw happen is that people first came out with EGF, and then another person said, well, I've got more EGF. And the next
Yeah.
person said, more EGF. And you as a consumer are thinking, well, more is better. I want the most for my money. And you're not realizing that at some point you're going to go way beyond biological levels, and it's not actually healthy for you. So as with anything, consult your dermatologist, consult your doctor, look at what you're using, and monitor yourself carefully, right? Most of the time, if you're using a reasonable amount of something, each day you apply it, you're nudging your skin in that particular direction. And I'm not going to call out any single product as bad or good, but as always, be cautious and be thoughtful.
It's really good to know. Because listen, as consumers, we hear this and we're like, oh yes, let's get the cell to be at its best, but not thinking about, hey, if you're causing the cell to act in a way that maybe it wasn't supposed to, that there could be
Oh,
sort of, or maybe overcharging it. Is that it?
well, no,
Or
this is
accelerating it?
the way I think about it too, right? Is that if you're getting a growth factor that's not made from a human cell, it's a synthetic growth factor, then your body may or may not know how best to get rid of it, right? Most of these growth factors and these positive things that are in the skincare, this more advanced skincare that we have today, I like to think about it a bit like a multivitamin, right? Where if it's from a source that your cells recognize and they can process these proteins, because they're proteins, they're things that they already are encountering naturally in the body, right? If there's a bit too much, your body has a mechanism to get rid of it. If
Right.
there's not enough, your body has a mechanism usually to make it or to convert it from your diet or wherever it's getting it. And so, the question becomes, if you go way, way overboard, can you do some harm? Yeah, I think you probably can, but it's maybe a little scarier when you're using something synthetic, when you're
Right.
using something that you haven't talked to your dermatologist or doctor about, and doesn't have a solid reputation or a doctor behind it. Otherwise, if you're dealing with natural products, truly natural cell-derived products, your body is going to say, okay, we have enough of that. We need more of this, and put it together and kick out the rest, just like it does when you take a multivitamin.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. So, do we have the same concern when it comes to exosomes, or are they kind of in a category of their own, in your opinion?
I'll admit right now it feels like a bit of the Wild West in the exosome space, and
Okay.
seen everything. I've seen stuff that is not, backed by anything. I've seen stuff that seems very scientific. I've seen, there's some clear rules and lines around this, and not all those have been clearly followed by some companies out there. So I think this is an area that, like any new exciting area, there's a part of it that is really exciting and cool, and everyone's jumping on it. And there's a part of it where people are jumping on the bandwagon and they're trying to make money based on the buzzwords. And so this is where you have to be a little bit more knowledgeable as a consumer. And we sell our products through doctors, only through doctors, on purpose, because we want to educate them on the product, and we expect them to educate you. And they're not going to steer you wrong, right? They're going to do a little bit of the digging for you. But if you're out there in the kind of broader B2C, or direct to consumer space, you might find some products that say exosomes on them. And if you haven't talked to somebody knowledgeable about it, I would take a second look.
Gotcha. Great advice. So okay, we have kind of touched on the surface of the science. I thank you for that. Let's talk about ELEVAI. So what was it, what is it that makes this stand out? Because I know now this is the first shelf stable exosome skincare treatment, or the first exosome treatment designed to be topical, or
Yeah,
both?
both. Yeah. So
Both.
there is another, I'm aware of at least a couple others that have now moved into the topical exosome
Okay.
space. We were the first, topical at-home exosome serum. And we have two products. We have one that is really meant only for in-office use, so the consumer isn't able to buy that and take that home. It's really just for the doctor to use at the time of treatment. So maybe you're getting microneedling, laser, microdermabrasion, etc. That's where that comes in. And it all fits back to this basic story that we talked about, which is that when you're in the office, right, these procedures are trying to kickstart your own healing and repair processes, right? They're doing some form of what we call controlled microinjury. And sometimes that's very mild. Sometimes it's pretty painful, right?
Yeah.
And
Runs the
so,
gamut. Yeah.
right. And so when you go to recover, the expectation is you're going to recover better than you were before. And the responsibility to do that is on you, on your cells and your healing system, right? And so as we age, that healing system is not getting better.
Right.
And right. So we probably, could use all the help we can get in that department. And the idea here is, when was our body working really well? When were there messages that helped us heal rapidly and easily? And I think most people can relate to the idea that, when you fell as a child, you scraped your knee, and then you forgot about it, healed up, and you probably don't even have a scar, right? 20, 30 years later, the same thing happens. And you're like, why is my knee still pink? It's been a month,
Yeah.
There's a breakdown there in the healing capacity of our skin. And so the idea is, if you're going to go in and subject yourself to a controlled microinjury, why not also boost and support your skin afterwards by giving it the nourishment it needs? And that's where our in-office product comes in. But of course, you're not going to heal overnight. It's not a 24-hour healing process. You're still going to heal for days and weeks after from a lot of these procedures. And that's where we give you the take-home product, the one that you have there with you. That's what we call our Infinity. That's our daily serum. And this is, I hate to use the term super serum, but it really is a super serum. It's an 8-in-1 product, right? We're putting on here not just the exosomes encapsulated and kept in a nice hyaluronic acid blend, but we also are using other known ingredients that work, right? And by combining ingredients and giving you more products in one, instead of having a preservative in your vitamin C and a preservative in your ceramide product and a preservative in your hyaluronic acid product, and layering all these things that you don't want more preservatives, you don't want more fillers. We really tried to push that into one simple topical treatment that makes it healthier for your skin.
Wow. Very interesting. You bring up such a great point. When we are layering all these products, not only layering, what we hope are the, efficacious, beneficial ingredients, but also preservatives that let them sit on their bathroom shelves. Ooh, interesting thing that we should delve into on another podcast, because I want to make sure to focus on this. So I have to tell you, I try so many different products. Very few of them make it into my routine. This has been now in my routine. When we met, I guess this was like about a month ago, you challenged me, hey, because I said, well, do we layer a moisturizer on top of you? You're like, I don't really need it. So, we're in the summer right now. So I've been using this in the morning, just by itself. At night, sometimes I'll throw a moisturizer on top of it just because my skin's been a little bit dry. But I do feel like it's getting brighter. I also ran into an esthetician who got a sample of this at one of the big beauty trade shows, and we started talking about it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I am I crazy? Like, I think it's working." And I was like, I've been using it for a couple of weeks now too. We both had to address the smell. It has a very interesting smell, but I'm going to assume that's because you have these very sensitive exosomes in there that can't deal with fragrance.
Yeah, so I previously made products with some fragrance in it, and it's hard to find fragrances that are safe to use, that don't upset anyone's skin, that are not causing allergic reactions. And so I often was told, can we just get a fragrance-free version? And I said, I don't know that you know what you're asking for, because sometimes there is a sort of a bready, sort of a yeasty smell, a cell culture smell. There's something that makes its way through. But generally speaking, anything that's high or dense in proteins and is going to have a bit of a scent to it. So, I also know most folks, they have a perfume, they have scented lotions, they have other things. And so we said, we're just not going to address that. We're going to give you the raw stuff. We're not going to put anything in there that we think is going to irritate you or cause an allergy. And so I apologize for the smell. I know it's not the best.
And let me tell you, because I keep it real here, right? So I just want everybody to know, if you get it, you didn't get a bad batch. It does have an interesting, it's not like some products that we've covered on this podcast that just quite frankly stink. No, this is just kind of more of, like you said, we'll go yeasty bready, and it does dissipate. Like, I just put it on, it dissipates. But just keeping it real here. It does have an interesting smell, but like you said, probably also better because so many people these days are sensitive to fragrance, right? So you're kind of saving us from that. I was really impressed by your before and after photos, which not only show people with their skin, but you were using the reveal camera, I believe it was. Right. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I talked about this last week. I spent a lot of my time critically looking at a lot of before and afters, and sometimes you're like, well, you shot that, like, the exposure on these two shots is different, so of course she looks different. Tell us about the reveal camera.
Yeah. So as a scientist, I want to be quantitative, right? And when I first entered into the aesthetics world, I found a lot of things were not quantified that frankly should or could be. And so we've worked with a variety of different systems. The reveal camera was just something that was easy to get, to be portable. We could do studies. We could bring the camera to you. It's not the only one out there, but generally speaking, we want to be quantitative. And so this was an opportunity to look and be less subjective. We're continuing in that vein as we do future studies. We want to really get a number, and ideally not a number that's decided by a human being. Like, there's a lot of like scales. Like if you go and look at studies, there's like a certain scale where a doctor or a person judges for themselves on a number scale. And in this case, the computer decides, right? And when the computer's assigning a number and the conditions of the lighting are exactly the same and the position of the face is lined up, like they even have this thing where kind of like a ghost where you lock into the previous photo. That technology is great, and it really helps us to show that there is something happening here. Sometimes the changes can be subtle at first, but most people notice within 4 weeks a change, and within 12 weeks a significant change.
I wish, I wish it would take before photos, but like you said, it's so hard because you're never going to get the same lighting. You're never going to, there's so many subjectives that go into things like this. But I don't know. I've been using it and I feel like my skin looks brighter. I also noticed that in addition to the photo damage, right? So those reveal photos that show the photo damage, the underneath, which had significant changes from before, and I think it was 12 weeks after. I noticed there was like a reduction in the redness as well. Is that by design?
Yeah. So when you think about what's happening here, what may be happening, right? And we talk about a stem cell's role in the body. So if you think about what a stem cell is doing, part of its job is as an immunomodulator, right? It receives signals and it sends signals. And so that means sometimes it's receiving the signal that inflammation is there, and it's
Mhm.
responding and saying, okay, we know that inflammation, this is where the damage is. Now let's move from the inflammation phase into the later stages of healing and repair. And so I think of inflammation in the body as like your body's kind of putting its hand up saying, we got damage over here,
Right.
and you need these other signals to come in and move you along. Unfortunately, we can get caught into chronic inflammation states where people are walking around red all the time. And in darker skin tones, it may not show up as red. It may actually show up more as a change in pigment, right? But underlying is inflammation. And so if we can calm down the skin, calm down the melanocytes, and then supply these kind of nourishing factors, the skin will tend to reset itself over time if the damage is not too severe. And so half the game is not getting to that chronic inflammation point. And if you get there, try to move out of it by suppressing and quenching that inflammation, by moving forward with the recovery process instead of getting stuck at that stage in healing.
Right. Before we let you go, is there anything else that you feel like you really want people to know about this product?
Well, I love your feedback. I'd love to hear more on your experience with it. Because this is something I think about the science every day. I look at the photos, but I rarely get to interface with the actual end user. And the few times I often have people tell me things that are not written on the bottle. They're not something we've marketed, whether that be, oh yeah, it helped with my redness when I was in the office, but what was really great, I didn't have any itching. It reduced the discomfort of the actual procedure. Those are things that are really hard to quantify, and I love to hear. So I don't know if you have any personal feedback.
So you're going to hear a crazy thing now. Again, keeping it real, this is something that I have been dedicated using, but I do a lot of treatments with New Beauty. So I think sometimes it's hard to say, well, this is the sole thing that I've been using and doing. However, when I put on my serums at night, I do one pump. And also I did talk to somebody, the woman that I talked to, she was like, when I'm doing it, it pills. And I
Mm.
said, how many pumps are you doing? And she was like, I don't know, like 2 or 3. I was like, you're putting on too much. One pump. I was like, I bet it's one pump. And she was like, you know what? I never even thought about that, because I found that if I did 2 pumps, it felt too much. One pump covers the face and that's all you need. Um, Crazy thing. So after I put this serum on, I'll kind of just always wipe my hands, and I feel like I feel like my hands look better. So that is no, but I'm serious. I'm not making this up. It has been a crazy thing. I looked down the other day because I started wearing gloves when I get my nails done, so the UV light doesn't
Right.
discolor them. But I feel like my hands, the actual color of my hands and some of that hyperpigmentation has gone away. Is that like
No, I mean, we get people that's often how they find their way into our product, because there are reps for our company. They're giving samples to sometimes the person that works at the front desk, and they're just putting it on the back of their hands. They might use it, kind of flippantly, and then they'll notice that. And we've had that people call us and go, "Ooh, this actually worked really well on my hands, or on this one thing. I want to try more." So, we have heard those kind of stories, and you have to remember, this is really packed with good stuff. I think a lot of products out there, they're giving you something so they can put it on the label. we're not doing that. We're jamming this full of as much stuff as possible. It's not a
Right.
cheap product. I'm not going to pretend that it is, but we want to deliver on the promise here of giving a really good, high quality product.
Well, I'm liking it. You can get around that smell. It doesn't last very long. Certainly worth a shot. And like I say, I always tell people, go to the ELEVAI site. That's ELEVAI skincare.com, right? ELEVAIskincare.com.
Right.
Take a look at some of these photos. Take a look at some of the research. I mean, it's clear to me that you have quite a background in science, that this is coming from a sound medical start, as opposed to, hey, we think this looks good, feels good, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I do feel like using it, my skin does look better. I do. I really
Awesome.
do. Yeah. So I want to thank you for that. If people want to know more about this and if they want to purchase, because this is only available in doctors, or can you get it on elevaiskincare.com?
Right now, we're exclusively being sold through top medical practices, derms, plastics, medical spas with a medical director. We have locations all over the country that sell this, but it is still a fairly exclusive item. So certainly if you're having any problems finding it, you can always reach out to us. There is a contact at elevaiskincare.com. That's a good one. You can also reach us through our website. Certainly, if you have anyone come to you, please let us know, and we will find a way to get them some product. But our doctors love it when we push leads their way, of course.
Yeah, and I think you said it's good to have it coming from a trusted doctor, dermatologist who can ask questions. And of course, I want to thank you, first of all, so much for being on with me today. So much information, for helping clear some of this up. I would love to have you back, because clearly we could speak for hours. And you at home listening, if you've got questions you want me to pass along to Dr. Plews or any of the ELEVAI team, I'm always happy to do that. You can email me at hello@artbeautypodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Art Beauty Podcast. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye now.
Thank you, Amber.